Hi everyone, how you going? I just thought I'd pop in and we'd have a bit of a chat about this ABC article and a little thing about ABC missing out some very important facts. Yeah, we'll have a bit of a chat about that. So let's have a look here. I read this article and it's like, first thing they forgot to mention was the 20-age pensioners already on the cashless debit card. Convenient that the ABC misses that out. Convenient that they don't mention the Cape York at all, and they forgot to mention the Northern Territory. How convenient is that? You know what I mean? So obviously they're getting LNP is getting very nervous about this. How Labor will introduce the bill to scrap the controversial cashless debit card program on Monday. All right, because it's obviously oh, sorry about the messages. It's obvious that our ABC is no longer able to report correctly. You know what I mean? Because you just miss out vital information, paints the wrong picture, and excluding whole state and a whole nother region to hide the fact that age pensioners are already on the card. Do you know what I mean? It's pathetic, isn't it? So they're worried about, they're saying it's reckless and irresponsible, the bill to scrap the card. Why? It was reckless and irresponsible to put the card in the places anyway. They're talking about destabilising communities. What do you think it's done to the people that are already on the card? Totally destabilise their lives, turn their lives upside down, turn their ability to pay bills upside down, put a lot of people out on the street, made people move from places that they didn't want to move from, okay, Terry Campbell says he's prohibited from watching my videos, reason given to prohibit misuse. Oh, but I can watch others. That's weird. I don't know what that means. Oh, well, maybe they're trying to block my videos as well. Wouldn't surprise me because you guys know I'll tell you what's going on. And they don't like that either. What can I say? But don't forget, right, whatever they say, the LNP, they're trying to backpedal. The fact that age pensioners are already on the card, they can't get away from. The fact that disability support pensioners are already on the card and have been on the card since 2016 in Ceduna, Kununurra, and since 2018 in the Goldfields, you know what I mean? And now for just over 1,000 people, about 1,100 people in the Northern Territory, disability is also part of their payment scheme. And of course, for those up in Cape York. So, for people who are concerned, disabilities and carers have been on it since day one. Apart from, the only place where they're not is in Hinkler, which is Hervey Bay to Bundaberg, which is the under 36s section. And we don't know how long that'll last either. Because even though Minderoo removed it, I remember seeing an article with Minderoo stating that they'd like to see Hinkler region align with the rest of the country, which means all ages up to age 67. Right, so Leanne says what was said was on the ABC. Well, posted the article here on the page, but ABC have come out today with, and I'll read it. So, Labor will introduce a bill to scrap the controversial cashless debit card program on Monday, almost a year after the government failed to win support to make the scheme permanent in some communities. No, that was to make it permanent across all communities. The private member's bill will be moved by Victorian MP Julian Hill and seconded by Tweed Heads MP Justin Elliott. We want to see this bill voted on. We want it scrapped. We know how destructive it's been, said Miss Elliott. Under the cashless debit card program, 80% of an individual's social security payments, I'll replace the word welfare, are quarantined on an injury card and cannot be used to purchase alcohol or gambling products. Well, we know that's very different. You can still buy your alcohol, all right? It doesn't stop people from getting gambling products, and it doesn't stop abusers from taking a card and using it too. So the program is in operation in Ceduna, East Kimberley, Kalgoorlie, Bundaberg, Hervey Bay, and has been trialled for more than 5 years. Now let me expand on that. Okay, Ceduna, all APY lands, right? Yatala community and all round, okay? East Kimberley, Kununurra to Wyndham and all around. Kalgoorlie, right? Canambla, Coolgardie, Laverton, Menzies, okay? And Boulder and all around. And they've been sneakily, as the people from Warburton come into town to do ceremony or stuff like that, they've been sneaking them on the card as well, even though they're not part of the... And then they go back out to the Warburton community and they can't use the card. You know, but this, you know, they've been sneaking around Bundaberg and Hervey Bay. And why don't we go through Howard, Childers, Aldershot, right? There's the main towns in between. And that's a big area of 112 kilometres between the two towns. So let's not, you know, this is not small areas. And then you've got the Cape York, which is the whole of the Cape York. There's about 8 communities up there on the Cape York. And then you've got the whole of the Northern Territory, right, which they're trying to coerce to trick people from changing from their basics card, which means their human rights are still intact, their legal protections are still intact. They're trying to coerce them to volunteer to go into the cashless debit card privatised system where all their rights are gone and there's no way off. Do you know what I mean? Either which way, compulsory basics card and compulsory cashless debit card are still forced income management programs either way. Okay, so I think the government's a bit peeved that they didn't get 23,000 people in the Northern Territory on the card as yet. They've only managed to coerce 1,100 as of this month. But that's 1,100 too many. And bear thought for people on the age pension, disabilities and carers. If this government gets back in, this is life sentences for these people, right? Because these people can't go back to work. So this is life sentences on the card, you know. Yeah, so you've got to spare a thought. This is till death do us part rubbish, do you know what I mean? And then it will leave the situation where family members have to fight with Services Australia and Indu and to be able to get whatever at the end of a person's life through their estate. That'll be an interesting nightmare, won't it? To get people's estates finalised if they've died after being put on a cashless debit card. Okay, so access issues. Right, we've been in, you know, this is from Justine Elliott. She says, we've been inundated with people across the country whose lives have been impacted by being on the CDC. They can't access basic goods and services, and often the card doesn't work in many premises. It means they can't access second-hand goods. Right, and you've read here, and you've seen so many videos here of what I've put up about what what card holders have been through and what they've been denied and how humiliated they've been, you know. And Justine says, in a really tragic case, a woman wasn't permitted to buy a funeral urn for her deceased twins. This is appalling. And yep, I spoke to that lady myself, and it was disgusting what the department put her through. They withheld her bereavement payment at 100% because it's a restrictable payment, and then they wouldn't let her use it to pay for the funeral urns and the cremation of her twin babies that she lost. That's probably one of the worst. We've heard where you couldn't pay for other funeral costs, and you couldn't even apply for a christening gown for a new baby. So there's, you know, it goes too far. We've got, you know, one lady, she couldn't buy a bra, and she was expected to give photographs to prove so that they would release the money. Another lady who went into Ipswich bras and things, and the card was blocked. I mean, seriously, come on. Not all of us can just walk into Kmart or Woolies and buy the crappy cheap ones off the rack. I can't, right? It's just ridiculous. So, Miss Elliott said Labor was opposed to the fact the government was essentially privatising welfare. Well, they've been doing this now for 6 years. Okay? Serco staff are running the call centres. You know, and cashless debit card holders have to put up with uneducated Serco staff being little dictators. Oh, no, we don't think you can afford that. No, you don't need to spend that money. You have thousands stuck in your card, right? But they'll decide whether you can use it, you know. You know, Wilbur says here, couldn't buy a bus ticket with the basics card. We still can't buy a bus ticket with the cashless debit card either, right? You can't get on a bus in our region, and I'm in the Hinkler region. You know, people can't just get on a bus with the card. When Mahalia was on the card in WA, she couldn't use public transport either. You know, same sort of thing, you know. There's no accountability for Indu. We've been screaming about that for the last 6 years. They're not accountable to you, me, or the Senate. They don't have to front up, and they don't have to be accountable for the damage they're doing. When they deny somebody the ability to pay a car loan, and that person goes bankrupt as a result, right, and they lose their car, there's a family behind that, there's kids left behind that have to walk, right? When they leave people stranded on the side of the road in 37-degree heat, might have been 3 years ago now in Kalgoorlie, but I'm not forgetting that they stranded a family with 5 children with a 9-week-old on the side of the highway in 37-degree heat in the outback. And then just this week, with all the storms we're having, a lady got stranded in Rockhampton. You know what I mean? Because the app didn't work properly. It showed the money coming out of her account to pay for the taxi, but the taxi didn't get paid. So that money's in cyberspace somewhere, and he let her off, but she had to walk home with her kids in the storms that we've had. And if anybody's been watching my personal feed, I've been putting up video of the storms we've been having at night with the thunderstorms, but you can see on Higgins storm chasers and stuff like that, the impact of subtropical storms we're having at the moment. Right, you know, last year, the bushfires, everybody was advised to access cash. Right, one of the senators tried to put in a bill, you know, an amendment in the last bill to allow people on a cashless debit card access to cash during an emergency. No. Pauline Hanson wouldn't have a bar of it. Centre Alliance wouldn't have a bar of it. No, but especially Pauline. No way. No access to cash. Right? And I can remember challenging Services Australia saying, and how are people supposed to contact you? And they sent me a message on Twitter saying, give us a call. And I sent them back a photo of a melted phone box. A, how do you call you when the phone box is burnt and melted? And B, where do you get money from? And how do you get out when the fuel station is cash only and running on generators to help people get away? You just leave cardholders abandoned in bushfires? Or do we see like we did in Ceduna in 2017, 8 days with no power, denied access to cash to buy second-hand generators, no food, no electricity, and no help, and abandoned? You know, this is disgusting, okay? So, I'll go back to the article now, because, I get really frustrated, you know, because the ABC won't report stuff properly. They always omit stuff. They miss the important stuff, all right? They miss the human damage this is doing. And I've got friends of mine struggling on this card at the moment, and it's not fair. It really is not fair. So, Justine says, worry for cards expansion. Miss Elliott said Labor has concerns. The government plans to roll out the card for age pensioners around the country. Well, it's mission creep. Look, they promised in 2016, 1 year trial. It was going to be targeted to a few people on their new start, right? The agreement that was signed with the Aboriginal elders in Ceduna said one thing, okay? When it actually came out, everybody got put on the card. It wasn't just directed at those 67 people that needed help. Ceduna's been asking for a rehab for a decade. They still haven't got it, you know. You know, and it's 6 years down the track and the people of Ceduna are still on the card. 1 year trial. And every region was told the same thing. Kalgoorlie, oh, it won't hurt to try. It's only for 1 year. Well, Kalgoorlie's going on 3 years, right? And then Hinkler is going on into their 3rd year, right? It's only a 1 year trial. You know, they don't tell you the truth. You know, oh, we got to give it a go. Why? What's happened to Hinkler? It has now got the name, and it was on Wide Bay News. We are the most disadvantaged electorate in the whole country. The highest for homelessness and the highest for youth suicide. When you break people mentally, spiritually, when you divide people in your community and you pit your community against each other and you welfare bash the hell out of them in the media, right? And then people are subject to abuse and being terrorised in public when they use the card, right? Of course it's going to have comeback. When you cut the funding, right, to homeless services that would provide people with money to pay rent to catch up, at the same month as you roll out the card, and you already know that the housing issues and the rent issues for the card have already been in play in Ceduna and Kununurra and the Goldfields, right? And everybody's a week behind, everybody's been breached, there's been evictions galore, and you ignore that, and you move the card into an area and you cut off the funding that would help people stay housed, and you deliberately have a system set up so that it only fits one way, and if the way you're housed, it sits outside that way, too bad, so sad, you lose your housing and have to move. And then if you're in a card area, you won't get another house if you're on the card, because the owners have woken up and said, I'm not putting up with this, my mortgage is paid late, I'm getting default fees on my mortgage. I don't want anybody on an Indu card in one of my houses, you know what I mean? So we'll go back here. Justine Elliott says, you know, in regards to the pensioners, these are people that have worked hard all their lives, paid taxes, raised their families, and now here's the government saying, well, we're going to control where you spend 80% of your pension. All right? There's a lot of people on the DSP, like in their mid-60s, late 60s. There's a lot of older people on job seeker in exactly the same position that have worked their lives off, and they've worked professional jobs. I've known people that have been on the card. One guy I knew, he did get off after 5 years, because I think he originally came from Ceduna and went to Kalgoorlie, and he finally got off the card, but he was an ex-police officer, ex-correction service, and ex-youth support worker. Another lady from Kununurra had worked for the education department for 40 years and had to fight like hell to get off the card. You know, these are not bludgers. Really, seriously, it's just ridiculous. So the Morrison government, here we go. So Social Services Minister Anne Ruston vehemently denied the card will be expanded to age pensioners. And you put it in the bill. If you never intended for it to go to age pensioners, why is it a restricted payment in the bill? Now, a restrictable payment is 100% quarantine. So why is it in the bill? Why were they even mentioned, right? And why was there, oh, you can volunteer on? Now, you know, Gillespie staffer let slip that the reason that they want to put the elderly or the aged on it is for their own safety. So the idea is, we've got your grandkids on it, we've got your adult kids on it, so we can't have you in a position where you've got cash to be able to bail them out, which is what's happening in other regions. All right, you can't buy something for your granddaughter because your daughter can't buy it because she's on the card. You know what I mean? We can't have that. No, you're at risk, you know. So it may be a good idea to go on the card. And we know of 6 people that have volunteered to go on the cashless debit card on pensions, but we know of 14 people who didn't get the choice that are age pensioners. Do you know what I mean? So, and toddle off with your lies, because you can't get round it. You put it in the bill. You wanted it in the bill. It's in the bill, right? And then you allow people in the Cape York and other regions to put people on pension, right? Mainly probably Northern Territory, East Kimberley, because it seems to be a race thing, right? And unfortunately, I've spoken to some people. The minute I mention that age pensioners are on it in the Cape York, the mentality is, oh, it's only for those people. And I hit the roof. If you say to me, oh, it's only for them, it's only for the black people up there, I'm going to bloody explode, okay? Because I don't care what colour your skin is. If you're an age pensioner, you're on the card, right? It doesn't make any difference. I'm not seeing... Anne can wiggle as much as she likes, right? She's fibbed. She's fibbed. And there's video of her fibbing. Oh, my God. And don't forget, people like me watch Senate estimates, and we pick up on what's being said in estimates as well. You know what I mean? So she's busy vehemently denying that the card will be expanded to age pensioners. The Morrison government has made it clear we have no plan and will never have a plan to force age pensioners onto the cashless debit card. Well, yes, okay, off you trot, Anne. You've done it. You don't even know what your own bill does. And she says it's reckless and irresponsible bill. Ms. Ruston says the bill being introduced would cause instability to trial areas. All right, instability to trial areas? Wow. Instability to people's lives. Instability to not being able to pay rent. Instability not being able to pay childcare fees. Instability to people's mental health. and their children's mental health, and the exclusion of said families from community events, charity events, school events, right? How else do you... I'm sorry, but every area the card has gone, it has destabilised the community, right? The stress and the hurt that it's brought with it. The rise in domestic violence, okay, is a real big issue. Now, we've always known that if you've got financial pressures in the household, that's going to cause frayed tempers. When you've got people stuck on cashless debit cards, that's even worse. When they can't pay their bills and they're going bankrupt, or they're forced into a situation where in the past they would have used their family tax supplement money to buy a cheap car or buy parts to repair a car in the past without having to take out any loans, and you're pushing people into taking third-party finances that are 24.95%, Money 3 is their only approved car loan place, right? You're pushing people who are vulnerable, who can't really afford $220 a fortnight out of their payments, to a finance company where a lot of the car yards that have been named, using them like Unicorn, have featured on A Current Affair, right, sprouting that they help single parents out with a car, but they're lemons. Now, I've got a situation where one of my admins at the moment is a carer on the cashless debit card. Her son was not on the card. She was his nominee, so she was managing his money, right? Then when they cancelled the nominee status in March this year, she gets issued a card for her son. He suddenly gets put on the cashless debit card. She's trying to manage 2 lots of Indu cards, 2 lots of 20%, but it's all coming in different pay dates. And the result is it's completely crashed her finances. Now, she's one of these people that got pushed into taking out the finance on a car, right? It is now going bankrupt because the car ended up having serious mechanical issues that's not covered under its insurance, and she's got a useless car, right? She's going broke. But I've met so many families that have gone broke in this. You know, we had another guy, he did get off, he took it to AAT tribunal, but he had a bank loan prior to going on the card. So he's got on the card, he wasn't allowed to pay his bank loan. So, of course, Commonwealth Bank pushed him into bankruptcy. You know, this is rubbish. It's crazy. I've heard of people having to sell their houses because they couldn't get enough cash to pay their mortgages. You know, so don't talk about destabilising or, you know, the card has not stabilised anything. If anything, it's brought more predators to the region. More people willing to take advantage of people on the cashless debit card, right? It's brought, it's brought a myriad of lots of problems. More mental health as people's health has declined, right? People have ended up medicated. You know, you'll remember Jodie ended up having a heart attack and now lives with permanent heart damage. She's got no recourse. Right? And I'm sorry. But giving 80% of someone's social security money to a private company and then having jumped up legal Serco workers decide whether they're allowed to do things or not, right? Pushing people to use workarounds is all the way, right? Pushing people to use Afterpay and stuff like that rather than release their money and let them use their money, right? Or putting them through hoops where they have to be embarrassed at every step of the way. When they want to buy something off of buy, sell, swap, they need to get the seller's personal details, an affidavit. They have to put in an application. It can take 4 days. Sellers don't want to wait, and they certainly don't want to have to hand their details over to Indu and have that captured as well in the data thing. Oh, I'm sorry, but no. All right, look at what they've done here. Look at what it's done everywhere else. It is the cashless debit card has destroyed the mental well-being of the community, the well-being of the people, how they feel. It's destroyed their self-confidence, their sense of self-worth, right? It's broken people. And you don't get a healthy, flourishing community, right, when you're standing on people's heads, pushing them down and using the media to welfare bash the hell out of them and their families, especially when the kids start getting bullied or the kids start twigging on to why they're excluded from community events. Little things like, why can't I have a face paint, Mum? Why can't I go on that ride, Mum? Why can't we get in the gate, Mum? Right? Why can't we buy fresh fruit and vegetables from that little market that we used to go to, which we stay home now on a Sunday? Because if we're seen using the card, oh, you've got the druggy card. Right? It shouldn't be like that. It should never drive people like that. But I had a go at Keith Pitt. The last federal election, I fronted him in a park in Hervey Bay, and I said, how dare you do this to your community? How dare you do this to our young people here and all our under 36s? But I would say to people like Rowan Ramsey in Ceduna, how dare you do it to people like Jocelyn, who is 65 years of age? Now she can't even do her crafting because she can't buy anything on eBay. Take away people's hobbies, right, just because they're on Social Security is disgusting. You know, and it leaves people trapped. And shame on so-called domestic violence refuges in Perth and in Brisbane for sending, you know, traumatised people and their families, women and children, into card areas, okay? And in one case, I've got a lady who was threatened to have her children taken away from her in WA if she refused to move to either Bundaberg or Ceduna and go on the card, right? When you've just been through a near-fatal domestic violence situation. Do you know what I mean? I'm sorry. It's this state-sanctioned financial abuse. It's for profit for Indu and their mates, right? Simple as that, right? Simple of, you know, Nick Adler, I have proof of that allegation, it would be handy. I can't discuss too much about that particular lady's situation because her life's at risk, Nick, so I can't put her whole story on this page. We have put some of her story on the page, but I can't put it all on this page. But I can tell you, when they cancelled the nominee status for carers, right, this woman wasn't aware of it, but when she had to fly to Adelaide to have a child, right, she didn't have any family for her other two kids to go to, so they put them into welfare for a couple of weeks. And she had to sign all this paperwork, which you do when you're getting on a plane with the Royal Flying Doctors, right? This woman was not explained what paperwork she was signed at the time. And when she came back, she wanted to buy a double pram. She wanted to use her advance to buy one. And she was told she had to go into Centrelink. It turns out her Centacare worker had cornered nominee status over her, okay, as a parent, and because she's on the DSP. So she went and turned around and said, I want that taken off. I'm quite capable of making my own decisions, thank you very much. When the nominee status cancellation came in March, they tried to get it so that somebody from Centacare was going to be managing her finances. She got a letter stating that, you know, she would no longer have her own Indu card and that somebody else would be in charge of her account. And she's like, how am I going to feed my kids if I don't even have a card? How am I going to do this? You know what I mean? We sent her straight into Centrelink straight away and said, get my name off that, whatever that nominee is. I don't consent. We got it in time, luckily, right? And she managed to sort it in time. But if she hadn't have sorted it in time, we then found out they refused to say who her nominee was going to be, other than it was going to be a Centacare staffer. We did find out that not only was it not going to be a Centacare staffer in Ceduna, and she couldn't find out who was holding the new card for her, it was going to be a Centacare staffer 717 kilometres away in Adelaide. Go figure. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's disgusting. But this, you know, about Ruston saying the bill being introduced would cause instability to trial areas. No, it would give people back their lives. It would give people back the freedom to pay their bills normally and to try and correct some of the damage that's been done and, you know, catch up on rental arrears and be able to just get life back on track. And the psychological relief, right, would be so much better, you know what I mean? And then she's going, this is completely reckless and irresponsible piece of legislation put forward by people living in Melbourne and Byron Bay. Really? Okay. They would do well to speak to the people on the ground in these communities, Miss Ruston said. The cashless debit card helps unemployed Australians who are on welfare stabilise their lives in their communities. Rubbish! What about the people on the disability support pension? What about the people who are carers? What about students, AB study, Oz study, right? Stop saying it's only for unemployed. Come clean, Ruston. Because I'm sick of this where they're trying to point the finger at only unemployed people, right? In fact, I'm so sick of it. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to, just bear with me for a second, right? Just bear with me. I've got the stats for DSS stats, right, for September as of the 24th of September. All right, just bear with me while I find them, because here we go. I want to know why, when she speaks of people, why is she not including the 11 people on AB study living in the goldfields, or the 13 people on AB study in the goldfields, or the 180 people on carer payment in the goldfields, the 74 people on carer payments, and the 41 living on carer payment in Ceduna, and under 5 living in the Northern Territory. Why is she not including the 168 disability support pensioners in Ceduna, the 348 disability support pensioners in East Kimberley, the 613 disability support pensioners in Goldfields in WA, and the 26 disability support pensioners in the Cape York, right, and the 17 in the Northern Territory, right? She goes on about it's only for job seeker payment, of which the Goldfields and Bundaberg and Hervey Bay are the highest regions, but they're the biggest populations on the card, okay, and I'll get to those stats in a minute, right? But parenting payment partnered and parenting payment single, right, even if you're earning $1 parenting payment, you're on this card. You can be earning $3,000 a fortnight or more and still have a situation where the card's issued. In fact, I've got a lady on the Hinkler page that she's paying her rent via Centrepay. She's on Job Seeker. The other $66 that's left after she pays all of her rent, which is the rest of her payment, goes to her normal bank account because it's under the 20%. Indu aren't getting a penny in their account, but they've got the account open. So they're getting the $5,200 for having her on the card, plus $1,000 a year that she's on the card. Do you know what I mean? They're getting money for nothing, right? Yet this woman's still on the card, even though she doesn't, Indu doesn't actually get any money of her payment, but she's on Job Seeker. That shows how low it is. After she's paid her rent, she has $66 for the whole fortnight. That's for electricity, telephone, internet, transport and food, and whatever else, medications, you know, clothes, shoes, everything, you know, trying to live on $66 a fortnight. Seriously, you know. So the rates must be raised as well, because you've got people living in abject poverty and they're just being made worse. You know, so let's hear. Youth allowance is another one. Youth allowance, the 20% portion of youth allowance is like $70 a fortnight, you know, on the base rate. A lot of parents, instead of the kids paying their board, right, we have a situation where people on youth, you know, people that are sharing are having to pay rent with groceries or pay the bills because they can't get rent assistance or they can't get a rental allowance approved, or they just end up on the street. Excuse me. But here, other payments. This is where they hide for the Cape York region, the age pensioners. For this month, they've got 22, right, under other payments, okay? They've got 23 on parenting payments single. They don't appear to have any parenting payment partnered on it. They have 102 on Job Seeker, and they have 26 on disability support pension and 6 on carer payment. All right? And the total amount of people on the card in Ceduna is 11,111. This is as of the 24th of September. Right? In the East Kimberley region, 1,939. In the Goldfields region, 4,054. In the Bundaberg to Hervey Bay region, 6,989 people. Cape York has 186 people on it. They may only be a small community, but that's where they've hidden the age pensioners, okay? Because, you know, we'll put them up there and then people will turn around and say, oh, but they're only the black fellas up there, it doesn't matter. Well, I'm sorry, it does matter, right? Don't you ever forget. This was a 1-year trial, all right, that was supposed to start March 2016 and finish in March 2017 for Ceduna only. And look where it's spread. It's like a cancer. And in the Northern Territory, they've managed to coerce or trick or whatever 1,104 people into giving up their basics card and going onto the cashless debit card. So there you go. The biggest region is the lowest amount of Indigenous people, all right, with only 19% people that are Indigenous, the rest are white. The second largest area, which is the Goldfields, is also 48% Indigenous compared to 52% white, right? But the other regions are mostly Indigenous. You know, Ceduna 74%, East Kimberley 82%, Cape York 96%, and the Northern Territory, the percentage of them at the moment is 64%. So it's still a very racist, classist policy, but it covers all payments, all trigger payments. And then you don't forget all those restrictable payments, which is where age pension comes in. And your restrictable payments, all 100% quarantined. So Anne Ruston can stick it. Okay? She can just stick it. She can jump and jump and jump as much as she likes. Right? But the facts are the facts. Simple as that. The facts are the facts. Age pensioners were put in the bill. They passed the bill. One Nation passed the bill. Centre Alliance passed the bill in December of 2020. Right? That's it. That's the facts. Can't get away from it. It's very basic. And age pensioners are on the card now. And they're not going to stop. Yep. If they get back in, first cab off the rank, everybody under 36. The Nationals have already had their little cabinet meeting about that. Every payment too, under 36. Straight across the country. That's the start. You know, because you've got to get your grandkids and your adult kids on it first. Right? And then get more and more age pensioners slowly, mission creep. Because you're the last cab off the rank. Because they know that you won't stand up for this. I'm asking every age pensioner out there right now, stand up now. Even though it's not going to happen tomorrow to you, but it will happen. Stand up for your grandkids right now. Stand up for your adult kids right now. You know what I mean? Stand up, right? Don't let them do this, right? LNP government have to go because they have destroyed and caused so much dysfunction, right? And they talk about destabilising communities. They've destabilised the whole country with division and hate and austerity on the poor and the attacks on vulnerable, low-paid workers, people on Social Security, aged care sector, Medicare, the cost of medicines, right? And, yeah. So, sorry, it's very humid here. I have COPD, and when it gets humid, I start coughing. So, and I don't have air conditioning, and I live in government housing, and they won't put it in. So, I can't afford it. So, I just have to suffer my way through summer. Okay. Anyway, I'm out, and I'll talk to you guys later. I'm sorry about the coughing, but I get really riled when, there you go. Anne Ruston, stick it. Your lie's not working. Give it up, right? Scrap the card. See you guys.